Everyone thinks they know the story of Meghan Markle's private royal birth. But what actually happened is so much stranger than what you've been told. It starts with two impossible epidurals, a rapid hospital escape, and a chilling web of contradictions that changes everything you thought you knew about the Sussexes. This isn't just about Archie's birth. It's a masterclass in narrative control. A story so bizarre it feels fake. And what happens when the carefully constructed facade finally starts to crack? Meghan Markle and Prince Harry have always painted a picture of unwavering privacy, intense secrecy, and outright defiance against the palace when it comes to Archie's dramatic arrival. People even think her kids are fake, that they're AI'd. But now a growing chorus of loud, determined voices, armed with shocking receipts and insider testimony, suggests something far darker might have been unfolding behind those closed hospital doors. This isn't a mere whisper anymore. It's a roaring debate fueled by medical experts, royal insiders, and fiery commentators like Candace Owens. Get ready, because the official timeline doesn't just feel unusual, it feels almost scientifically impossible. This crisis won't die down until the irrefutable truth comes out. From Harry's own bombshell memoir to leaked hospital accounts, the carefully crafted story Meghan and Harry told us is crumbling under relentless scrutiny. Buckingham Palace itself is now being pressured, facing calls to remove Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet from the UK's line of succession until the Duchess provides absolute, undeniable proof she popped out both babies herself. When you meticulously place these twisted puzzle pieces together, the picture isn't one of a fairy tale royal birth. It's a shocking web of contradictions, a dreadful thing to do that's only growing harder to ignore. And here's the kicker. If even part of this narrative doesn't hold up, it raises a chilling, urgent question. What exactly was the royal family hiding? And why? Because if these glaring inconsistencies are real, then the public hasn't just been misled. The fundamental trust between Meghan, Harry, and the millions who celebrated Archie's arrival may have been shattered from day one. Why lie? It was just so truly bizarre, bordering on disgusting. But before you jump to any conclusions, let's meticulously break down the evidence piece by piece, like a courtroom drama unfolding in real time. Because what comes next may fundamentally change how you see this royal story forever. This is the part that will absolutely blow your mind. The timeline in Harry's own best-selling memoir might expose far more than the couple ever intended. In his book, he vividly recalls Meghan giving birth to Archie at the luxurious Portland hospital. Here's the insane, almost unbelievable part. He describes her supposedly enduring not one, but two epidurals, before somehow leaving the hospital with their newborn in just a matter of hours. On the surface, it reads like a dramatic, glamorous account, precisely the kind of story meant to showcase resilience, control, and an almost superhuman recovery. But when real doctors, experienced nurses, and even seasoned mothers began clinically analyzing this version of events, the questions came flooding in, demanding answers. First, the very idea of having two epidurals in the middle of active labor raised massive flashing red flags. An epidural isn't a simple painkiller you just pop in and out. It involves inserting a delicate catheter near the spinal cord. Switching it out mid-labor is not only exceedingly rare but also carries significant risks and is almost entirely unnecessary if the first was placed correctly. Why would you do that? That's not necessary. Medical professionals insist that if it were placed correctly the first time, there would be no need whatsoever for a second. This is where it gets really crazy. Silence everybody and just produce a DNA sample or proof of delivery. I mean, it's like she's playing a human being, like it's a performance. Second, the lightning-fast recovery timeline Harry describes is almost medically impossible. Most new mothers, especially those who undergo any complications or even standard pain management, are diligently monitored for at least a full day before even considering discharge. Yet, Harry claims Meghan was somehow at home, settled and resting with Archie within a shocking 2 hours. And here's where it gets even stranger, exposing a crucial hidden gem. Portland Hospital is located in central London, while their home in Frogmore Cottage is a lengthy, significant drive away. Between necessary discharge paperwork, essential newborn checks, post-epidural pain recovery, and the commute itself, the math simply doesn't add up. Even under the absolute most ideal, best-case scenario, the timeline feels incredibly rushed, suspiciously glossed over, and far too conveniently perfect. Why craft and tell a story that medical professionals worldwide overwhelmingly confirm doesn't align with the stark realities of childbirth? And if this critical timeline is so inaccurate, what else in their meticulously curated narrative might also be misleading the public? Because as profoundly odd as this account already seems, the contradictions only deepen significantly when we start looking at how the palace itself handled Archie's birth. This isn't just a minor detail, it's a crucial, unraveling thread in this deep rabbit hole. If Harry's timeline merely raised eyebrows, Meghan's inconsistent handling of the press lit the fuse for an explosion of global speculation. Traditionally, when a royal baby is born, there's a strict, sacred, and symbolic protocol. The Queen is informed first, an official announcement is prepared, and the press is notified almost immediately to share the joyous news with the public. But when Archie arrived, those long-standing rules seemed to vanish into thin air. Meghan herself gave not one, not two, but three wildly different explanations for why the press wasn't alerted in the usual transparent and expected way. In one version, she suggested it was simply to protect her privacy. In another, she bafflingly claimed it was due to unforeseen complications during the birth. And in yet another conflicting account, the story shifted yet again, completely contradicting earlier statements. If the truth was truly simple and straightforward, why so many wildly different clashing versions? Even veteran royal reporters, normally sympathetic to the palace, openly admitted their utter confusion over the timeline. Some journalists were explicitly told Archie had already been born hours before the official announcement, while others received conflicting messages that the Duchess was still in labor when in fact she demonstrably wasn't. This kind of unprecedented chaos doesn't just break royal protocol, it utterly undermines the core credibility of the institution itself. And remember, palace protection officers and staff follow rules to the absolute letter. Deviations like this don't just happen by accident. The extreme secrecy and ever-shifting contradictions didn't just spark mild curiosity, they ignited full-blown public suspicion. Put up a camera, fixated, and then both of you start twerking? Because in her mind she was thinking, I'm going to release this later in a Netflix doc, or release it later to show people how relatable I am. Otherwise, you can have a cute moment with your husband without recording it. Like, why would you record this for any reason? Why would you record this in the hospital? Was this pervasive confusion a deliberate, calculated attempt to hide the real circumstances of Archie's birth? Because as profoundly unusual as the press situation already was, it's nothing compared to the shocking details we uncover when we meticulously examine Portland Hospital itself. Do you truly believe these glaring inconsistencies are about protecting privacy, desperately creating sympathy, or discreetly covering something far deeper and more sinister about the monarchy? Everything you think you know about this story is about to violently change. When Harry described Meghan receiving 2 epidurals during labor, medical professionals universally raised an eyebrow, not just a little, but a full-blown incredulous stare of disbelief. For those unfamiliar, an epidural isn't a quick, simple injection. It's a delicate, invasive medical procedure where a catheter is carefully placed near the spinal cord to deliver continuous pain relief. Once inserted, it stays firmly in place, allowing adjustments in dosage without ever needing to remove and repeat the complex process. That's precisely why experts insist the claim of having 2 epidurals makes zero logical medical sense. Switching catheters mid-labor is exceedingly rare, inherently risky, and would only be attempted under the most extreme, life-threatening, and unusual circumstances. Even then, such an additional procedure would significantly extend recovery time and demand meticulous monitoring afterward. Why have they simply not made an announcement to the fact that all of these speculation about children's arrivals? Yet Harry's account suggests this was a routine, unremarkable event, glossed over as if it were absolutely nothing. Critics vehemently argue this detail doesn't reflect any medical reality, but instead reads like a dramatized, embellished retelling for effect, or worse, a deliberate and calculated misrepresentation of facts. And the confusion, shockingly, doesn't stop there. If Meghan truly underwent an additional invasive medical procedure, her reported rapid recovery and immediate discharge from Portland Hospital become even more implausible, defying logic. The combination of multiple epidurals and a same-day departure directly contradicts fundamental standard medical protocols, which rigorously emphasize prolonged observation to proactively prevent severe complications like nerve injury, dangerously low blood pressure, or life-threatening infection. To put it bluntly and unequivocally, the story doesn't align with how actual childbirth medicine rigorously works, which leads to an unsettling, profound question. Is this a simple misunderstanding of complex medical terminology, or was the narrative intentionally shaped to appear extraordinary, almost miraculous? What happens next completely defies all logic. Because when it comes to Meghan's pregnancy story, every single small inconsistency seems to dramatically open the door to something much, much bigger. Childbirth is not something you simply walk away from in a matter of hours, no matter how privileged the circumstances of your royal life. Standard medical practice absolutely requires new mothers to be observed for at least 24 hours after delivery, even in uncomplicated cases. Vital signs are constantly monitored, bleeding is meticulously assessed, and both mother and newborn undergo repeated essential checks before discharge is even cautiously considered. Now, if severe complications like preeclampsia are involved, which Meghan herself has publicly suggested, doctors would never, under any circumstances, release a patient so quickly. Preeclampsia is not a minor condition. It can cause seizures, catastrophic organ damage, and life-threatening spikes in blood pressure. Women who experience it are typically monitored for days, sometimes even weeks, to ensure absolute stability. Yet according to Harry's memoir, Meghan delivered, received multiple interventions, and was back home in what amounts to the length of a single feature film. That timeline isn't just unusual. It directly contradicts what obstetricians describe as safe, responsible, and ethical medical care. Medical experts reviewing this account have unequivocally called it reckless at best and utterly implausible at worst. And here's where the contradictions sharpen even further, cutting through the carefully curated narrative. Meghan has positioned herself as a prominent vocal advocate for maternal health awareness, often speaking passionately about the critical importance of proper care and monitoring. If her story about leaving so soon after birth is truly accurate, it directly undercuts the very standards she publicly advocates for. And if it's not, then the public has been given a meticulously curated version of events that doesn't remotely match reality. Either way, the narrative raises more urgent questions than it provides convincing answers, and those questions only intensify once insider testimonies begin to dramatically surface. If you had those things, it would be very easy just to put them out there and say, this is what happened. This is what it is. Behind the polished official royal announcements, quiet whispers from Portland hospital staff tell a starkly, shockingly different story. Anonymous employees have spoken of odd, inexplicable inconsistencies that utterly don't align with the glossy narrative we've been aggressively fed. One insider specifically questioned Harry's rather grand claim about ordering late-night gourmet food, pointing out that patients, even royal ones, don't exactly summon bespoke five-star meals at all hours. Yes, Portland offers fine dining, but accounts of Meghan's specific cravings sharply conflict with what staff actually remember serving. Another peculiar detail involves the so-called secret elevator that Harry described in his memoir. According to longtime reliable employees, while the hospital is certainly discreet and private, there's no hidden system resembling the one he painted for readers. Instead, the building operates like any other high-end private medical facility, with private corridors and discreet entrances, but absolutely nothing resembling a royal escape route straight out of a spy movie. These contradictions may seem minor on their own, but taken together, they paint a deeply troubling picture, a story meticulously curated for public consumption and maximum dramatic effect, rather than one solidly grounded in undeniable, verifiable fact. Back to this. The quiet, unsettling testimony of a supposed hospital insider who claims Meghan's stay was dramatically less eventful than portrayed. Suddenly, the official timeline feels even more fragile, on the verge of collapsing. Candace Owens has brilliantly seized on these inconsistencies, powerfully arguing that when small, seemingly insignificant details collapse under scrutiny, larger, more profound claims must also be rigorously questioned. Was the royal couple embellishing for sympathy, or was there something far more deliberate, even manipulative, at play? An intense, unwavering effort to control every single piece of the narrative, even down to the menu and the hallways. Whatever the underlying case, each leaked detail pushes the public further from trust and closer to deep, corrosive suspicion. And that suspicion only sharpens, becoming a cutting edge when we consider the monumental, bigger question: why all the lies in the first place? Why do you think medical details like 2 epidurals and a same-day discharge were included in Harry's memoir? Were they misunderstandings, exaggerations, or something far more intentional? That's just the beginning of this rabbit hole. By now, the inconsistencies aren't just piling up. They're screaming for a coherent explanation. If the timeline doesn't add up, if the crucial hospital details don't check out, and if multiple insiders keep contradicting the official version, then we're chillingly left with one profound question: why? So all of the pictures, my point is, out there, were inconsistent with the idea of a real pregnancy. Why would Meghan and Harry feel the desperate need to alter or embellish something as profoundly personal and universally understood as the birth of their own child? Some suggest it was about ultimate, unyielding control, maintaining absolute power over the narrative in a royal system where genuine privacy is seemingly impossible to attain. Others argue it was a cunning, calculated strategy to generate maximum sympathy, presenting Meghan as a vulnerable woman navigating extraordinary challenges under unimaginable, brutal pressure. And then there are those who believe the intense secrecy wasn't about Meghan at all, but about discreetly shielding the monarchy itself from uncomfortable, potentially devastating truths that could shake its very foundation. Whatever the real reason, the web of contradictions created an unintended, devastating consequence. Instead of silencing their critics, they handed skeptics even more ammunition, more fuel for the fire. Every shifted detail, every blurred timeline, every misremembered moment feeds the perception of dishonesty and manipulation. And once fundamental public trust starts to erode, rebuilding it is an almost impossible Sisyphean task. Candace Owens' pointed, often controversial criticism taps directly into this widespread mistrust, amplifying the doubts that were already simmering beneath the surface for years. Because if a royal couple can't be straightforward about something as fundamental as a birth, what else might they be meticulously hiding from the world? Whether it was a calculated PR move or a tangled, poorly executed web of half-truths, the devastating result is unequivocally the same. People are questioning the very integrity of the entire story, And that brings us to the final, unavoidable reckoning. The profound contradictions, the far-reaching consequences, and what this means for Meghan and Harry's credibility moving forward. I am sorry, but genuinely I don't even mean to attack her. There was something frustrating about her. And I think he hits now on the head. And there you have it. From stunning memoir contradictions to hidden hospital mysteries, Meghan's pregnancy story is packed with glaring inconsistencies that simply don't add up. Whether you ultimately believe this was just sloppy storytelling or something far more carefully crafted and deliberately manipulative, one thing is absolutely certain: the full truth remains buried under layers of confusion and conflicting accounts. Candace Owens may have stirred the pot, igniting a firestorm, but her commentary shines a blinding spotlight on urgent questions many people have whispered or shouted for years. The details don't match, the timelines clash, and every new explanation only opens the door to even more profound suspicion. But here's the kicker. This isn't the only part of Meghan's story that's raising serious eyebrows and sparking intense debate. If you thought the pregnancy timeline was wild, wait until you hear about her age scandal. Yes, her own father, Thomas Markle, has boldly come forward with shocking claims that could completely change the way you see Meghan forever. Our previous deep dive connects directly with everything we've uncovered today, and it reveals even more deep, dark secrets the public was never supposed to know. So before you click away, hit play on that video and continue the journey with us. Trust me, you'll want to see how deep this rabbit hole really goes. This is Star Spotlight, where the undeniable truth behind the headlines is always one step closer than you think. Stay curious, stay critical, and I'll see you in the next one.